World War I is the most important war in the past 150 years. And it's not because of all the complex politics that took place both before and after the war. It's because of all the innovations and inventions that were used during the First World War and how they changed warfare as a whole that makes it the most important war in history. Gone are the days of firing muskets in a line and wearing brightly colored uniforms. The Second Industrial Revolution had brought modern machinery to warfare, and the best place to begin with is small arms. Firearms had come a long way since the Napoleonic Wars. Bullets were now pointed and came with gunpowder inside of it. Reloading has become easier and quicker, and some can fire in full auto and were water cooled, of all things. That's what these big cylinders here are, water tanks to keep the barrel from getting too hot. So why are barrels not still cooled with water? It's because the water in the barrel would add more weight to the gun, and carrying around a heavy gun all day is not fun for the soldier. Despite their weight, they were still something soldiers feared when attacking a trench, as they could be cut down at any moment by machine gun fire. Bolt-action rifles became a favorite among sharpshooters. This led to a fear of sticking your head over the trench walls, as doing so could lead to snipers catching you in their sights and possibly killing you. This, on top of the other dangers of the land between the trenches, led many to think of other ways to get across no man's land, like, I don't know, a giant metal car with guns attached to it? Just an idea. Armored cars were a thing before 1916, but they were nowhere near the terrifying power that the tank would be. The tank was introduced at the infamous Battle of the Somme. Many would think this was the invention that changed the war. Unfortunately, it wasn't the end-all be-all weapon it seemed to be.
So the downside to using tanks in World War One was that while they were innovative for the time, they were slow, mechanically unreliable, and often broke down in the muddy, shell-torn terrain of the Western Front. Their limited speed and visibility also made them easy targets once spotted, meaning that despite their psychological impact and the fact that they were able to crush barbed wire, they were far from the decisive breakthrough weapon that they were intended to be.
Despite this, the tank saw extended use on both sides, with most major powers making their own version of the tank. Some ended up being successes, others not so much. Now that we've covered the ground innovations of the war, it's time we looked to the skies. The Wright brothers had their first flight in 1903, 11 years before the outbreak of World War I. During that time, the plane advanced just enough to be used during wartime.
At the start of World War One, planes were used mainly for reconnaissance, giving armies a new way to observe enemy positions and direct artillery fire. As the war progressed, their role expanded rapidly as pilots began carrying small bombs and engaging in aerial combat.
Despite the technology being around for some time, there were still some issues that early planes had. Most of them were made of wood, wire, and fabric, making them very vulnerable to gunfire. Open-air cockpits left pilots exposed to the elements. And some genius decided the best place to put guns on a plane was right in front of the propellers. Though this was fixed relatively early with the synchronization gear. The First World War didn't just advance new technology, however. Some innovations took existing technologies and completely reinvented them.
Since the Napoleonic Wars, naval warfare had advanced from wooden sailing ships with cannons to steel steam-powered battleships armed with heavy guns and long-range firepower. By World War I, Britain's powerful surface fleet, led by dreadnoughts, gave it dominance above the seas, maintaining traditional naval supremacy.
Despite their immense firepower, these new ships had one major flaw. They were expensive to build. So they didn't really fight other fleets, except for that one time they did. Britain may have had control above the seas, but below the water was another story. German submarines called U-boats could attack without warning and with complete stealth. Many of these U-boat attacks would be controversial as they would often attack civilian liners, like the Lusitania and Carpathia. Ocean liners were attacked in response to Britain's own blockade of Germany, and because civilian liners would often smuggle supplies in these liners. Even the Lusitania had supplies headed for the Western Front. This practice, on top of other things, would land Germany into some hot water when the war ended on November 11, 1918. I wonder how much time I have left before I hit the time